G'day and welcome to Insights and Storytellings with me, Moon Willow. As always, I really appreciate you joining me and combining your energies into these stories that I tell, because I couldn't do it without you. So anyway, every time I sort of get up, I think that and have done for the past year or so, I think that we're living in strange times, and I think that it's not going to get any stranger, and then wake up and find out that it has, really. But it's weird because through all of it, I have this deep, unerring sense that everything will be all right. And I can't explain it, and I know that sort of like I have travelled, as many have, this really dark, torturous path at the moment, and it's very difficult sometimes to find the light behind it. But every time I stop, every time I breathe, every time I try to worry too much, I just have this really weird, deep, abiding sense that somehow it will work out properly, and that everything is okay, and worrying about everything is not going to help matters. It just makes it more difficult to get out of bed in the morning. And actually, as I say, it will be okay. I had another tromp around the reserve again today. Yesterday there was a lot of rain, and that was evidenced with the paths around the reserve. There was the paths that I walked around on Monday. There was no way known that my wellies were going to be high enough for doing that again today. So I took a different route and saw the Trent, the most swollen I've ever seen it. And I've been walking around that area for numerous years, and I've never seen the water level be so high. And I went down this path that typically there's a good couple of feet until you can reach the river, and that was really up to the edge of the path. And the reason why I bring that up is because that's what it feels like to me at the moment, navigating this world, that it really feels like all of these negative energies, this ways of being, a darker narrative, things that are going off, the isolation, all of that can feel really, I've never seen it like this. I mean, I'm 50 years old, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in that either, that there are others who have lived longer than me that probably haven't experienced such times, especially not in the Western world, that's so controlled, that's so threatening. It's almost like watching the river at the edges of the path. I was just thinking in places it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take too much more rain for it to wash over and really obliterate the path. And that to me is very representative of what I'm noticing in the world at the moment, that it's almost like there's one more push, and we would lose the path. But even in that, I had this real trust as I was walking, that I would be all right, that I'd find the path, that it will be dry enough for me to navigate or be able to get through, that yes, there may be some puddles, but I was wearing the Wellington boots, and that was going to see me through, and I would be able to navigate and negotiate to get where I wanted to go and back again. And it was. So I think what I'm trying to say is that when we look outside, when we have a look at any of the media outlets at the moment, there is this real oppressive energy going off. And those of us that are looking for a higher path or a different outcome, or we just can't believe the main narrative at the moment because it just doesn't resonate, it's not ringing true. But at the same time, we have this complete and utter trust that somehow that will unravel around us and we will be okay, and we will be on dry enough land to continue to navigate, negotiate forward into something better and into a space that's more harmonious and less conflicting and less stressful, I think. So it's, so that's pretty much what was coming up for me today. Lots of other things, but that's the predominance of it. And I think what I'm trying to also say within that is just that just trying to hold our center, holding our faith, holding our trust in our truth to be able to navigate forward, that our wellies on our feet will be high enough to negotiate the path and the puddles that we need to go through. And as we're going through, sorry, I was reminded that at one point I ran across somebody, and he was asking whether the path, how much water was across the path, because he was wearing walking boots, and I'm saying that he would be fine to get to the place that he was looking for going. And I made a comment that I didn't have that worry because I was wearing wellies, and I was finding that quite that was exciting the child within me. And he made some sort of disparaging comment which I didn't take on board, because I was just really enjoying that moment of playing in the water and having fun. And I think that's the other thing that's come out for me today is remembering that we can find fun, that we can enjoy ourselves and play even in the darkest of moments, and that joy dispels any of the darkness. Laughter actually dispels the darkness. Loving that moment dispels the darkness, and it's finding the magic of being able to do that even when you're feeling like your back's pushed against the wall, as it were. So I'm going to see what crystal comes out for us today. So if you could focus on the so anyway, I didn't even get the words out, and crystal jumped into my hand, which you probably can't see because I'm wearing orange anyway. But we're back in the sacral and carnelian. So very much remembering that the emotional responses we're having to everything around us gives us clues as to how we're feeling about it. And as I was just saying, even if you feel like your back's against the wall, we can find joy, and we can flip it and laugh at it, a good belly laugh. And also I just love those moments where you can find joy and creativity and play. And that's not to That's by way no means to suggest that these aren't serious times, because they are, and I'm not discounting that at all. But if we keep stepping into that, if I decided in my walk to step over the barrier and get into a fast flowing river, I'd be lost and there would be no hope. But whilst we can still remain partially on a path and work out how to go forward, there is always hope. And if we can actually bring a joy and a playfulness to that, we can enjoy that moment and we can have some respite from the pressure of how overwhelming our world can seem to be at the moment. And it feels like it's never ending. It's like almost like one bit of news after another bit of news after another bit of news that can bombard us and make us feel less able to move on. And I know there was a lot of ables and whatever in that particular sentence, but bear with me. So it is really looking in our sacral area, seeing how we may have developed hooks or darkness by getting caught up in the current narrative. How does that make us feel? How do we disentangle it? Can we actually remove those darker bits? Can we actually change them? All energy is changeable. It can be changed into something. It can't be got rid of, but it can be transmuted into something else. So if we're feeling low, then I find that singing or just playing helps to lift my mood. It's finding those ways that we can transform how we're feeling into something where we feel like we can take on the world, we can take on the universe, that we can actually move through this. And going through the puddles, it's like we could get stuck by refusing to try. But by trying and turning it into a game that we can have enjoyment from, we don't get quite so overwhelmed, we don't quite notice so much the dangers on either side. It's not to ignore their existence, but to actually not get overwhelmed by it, not going down the route of, well, what if that goes over the path? What if I'm lost? What if I slip? What if I fall? It's being aware of those, but still going ahead and just enjoying that moment, enjoying the play, and creating a different feel to that story as well, so that we can actually move through it with more ease and trust, and really trusting that underlying sense that it is going to be all right, that eventually those waters will subside, that the rains won't rain forever, that there will be times where there isn't rain and it gives a chance for the rivers to actually subside, so it's easier to navigate through again. So we'll see what cards come out at the same time with this. Whip. We'll go with that one. I think I'm just going to randomly choose 2 more cards to go with that, as opposed to splitting today. So we've got the whip, 4-leaf clover, and the robber mouse. So the whip is quarrels and arguments, and that's the thing at the moment, is with everything that's going off around us at the moment, it's almost like we're being pushed into having a fight with those around us. That if our belief system, our way of viewing the world is different to others, there's almost like this pull to enter into a disagreement, an argument over who's right, who's wrong. And it's seeing the potentiality for those and navigating our way around it. It's like when I first got into the reserve today, I noticed that the path of the route that I normally take was much more covered with water than it was on Monday. So instead of forcing my way through that, which I could have got quite cross at myself for doing, I chose to take a different path. And I still had puddles to play in. I still got to see bits of the reserve that I really wanted to see. I managed to do what I wanted to do, and that was to clear my head and just allow the air and the wind to just blow out the cobwebs, as it were. And in meeting people as well, there were a couple of people that were clearly walking a different narrative to me, but I didn't have to get into an argument or a disagreement. It's like going on Facebook at the moment. There is certainly a lot of comments and posts that could entice me into responding, and it's acknowledging that. It's noticing who's commenting in a certain way, and instead of getting annoyed about it or upset, it's just recognizing that they are living their truth, and I don't have to enter into that. I don't need to be the one that changes their mind. All I need to do is actually continue to walk my truth. It's to create, and sitting back in the sacral space, is to create the world that I want to live in, and spend time with that. So spend time walking around the reserve and playing in puddles and talking to the birds, watching the murmuration of the starlings. I think that's who do the murmurations. Bear with me, I'm not very good with birds, for all that I talk to them so much. But it is almost this pressure at the moment, this overwhelming pressure to have a gut response to things that are going off around us, to instigate arguments and quarrels. And it's being aware of that, understanding behind why we're having such a strong reaction to it, to want to step into those arguments, and acknowledging that that exists, listening to our side of the story internally, and letting that transmute, changing that, creatively reacting to it, creatively responding to it. Whether it be changing the subject into something else that is more immediate, sort of like birds flying overhead, things like that. So it's being aware of those quarrels, being aware that there seems to be a ramping up of those for us to respond, and witnessing that, but choosing to go in a different way, and holding on to our internal belief, and trusting our underlying reactions are real, are true. But we don't have to get into an argument about them. We don't have to prove to anyone else what our truth is. We just need to know it, embrace it, and live it. So, and the 4-leaf clover, in managing to do that and holding on and linking back into the creative space of our sacral, turning that magically into joy, laughter, creativity, loving, that's going to bring more of those experiences, and noticing the synchronicities of things actually beginning to work themselves out, and noticing how that happens, and again coming back to the trust and breathing through it. So the clover is a really bright and very lucky card, and so what's just come through at the moment, and I know that some of this is coming from something I was listening to earlier, a lady called Adrienne Elise who does astrology, and I fully I love the way she puts things, but she was saying, or what I picked up from it, was that the bottom line is we have to trust that we are in the right place at the right time, for the right moment, for the right reason at this moment. And by holding on to that, not getting upset or wasting energy, which is where the mouse comes in, trying to query why we are where we are at this moment, but trusting that we are where we're meant to be, that is actually going to be more powerful and more lucky. And that's when we'll start noticing the synchronicities coming in, that those things that are working out right. So some of my drive home today, I kept hitting sort of a clear path through, that I didn't have many lights. I think I only had one light. I only had to stop once. My path home was really clear. And as soon as I noticed that, that's when I ended up with a red traffic light. And it's paying attention, but not putting too much into it as well. So it's noticing the flow and recognizing it and being thankful that that keeps happening, and grateful, being really grateful that we have what we do have, and the ability to see through the bullshit, and noticing when people are lying to us, noticing when there is this drive to go in a certain way, and understanding it, taking time to understand why. And again, recognizing our responses to it, really listening to our gut responses so that we can actually continue to reap the rewards of that higher frequency and the synchronicities of life flowing in a better way. And really trusting that that path going forward is the right one for us. Excuse me. So, which brings me into the robber mouse. And being really mindful of our energy at the moment, especially with the first card, and feeling like we're being overwhelmed and forced into reacting and responding in prescribed ways and perceived as wrong or problematic if we take a different viewpoint. And that wastes energy. So really at this moment in time, for me, it is very much about conserving our energy, really noticing where we get that extra energy from, how we clear our minds, that clearing away the cobwebs, not getting stuck in dark, dank spaces, literally going outside to breathe fresh air, watching the miracle of the earth around us and witnessing that, just like me with the murmuration. I think it is starlings. I don't know, feel free to comment. It was just beautiful to watch it, and just how they joined into the formations, and in the 5-10 minutes I was watching it, it tripled in size, and watching the small groups coming in. And really the murmuration is probably the way that we can look at those of us entering into this higher dimension, that there is a core group already there, and there's more flying in, and they're coming in their own little groups and working out how to join in without disrupting the pattern that's already there, without disrupting the energy that's already there. And how do you slot into that? How do you work out how to fit, but still maintain your own sense of individuality at the same time? And then I have to share this because it just really tickled me. As I was walking back and walking away, I noticed there was a group of crows that seemed to be trying to mimic the other birds in there and have their own mini murmuration, which was it just really tickled me. And it is almost like, even if there are those of us who seem to be sort of even more outside from the outsiders, we still bring something to the table, and we can contribute, even if that's just the light relief along the way, and really enjoying that. And it's in those moments of being able to laugh as well that I always find that I build my energy, that I can laugh at the ridiculous. I can laugh at sort of that sense of everything being so dark that it's almost hysterical, really. And it's not hysterics particularly, but it's really poking fun at it and looking at the sillier side of it all, so that you can have that relief, have that sense of relief. It's like the court jester. In times of old, it's those that were able to that could turn things into a joke, that actually could get reality to come through and got people to hear a truth. And the same could be said for some comedians these days, or only, well, those ones who are not taking necessarily the main narrative. But it is turning that into a joke almost. It doesn't diminish the seriousness, but it brings a lighter touch, and you're less inclined to get stuck in the fear or the anxiety or the stress, which helps keep your immune system higher. And to me, it always gives us, well, gives me anyway, extra energy to cope, to have a sense of the ridiculous, and recognize that the world on other levels, that the earth is continuing to turn, that the birds are still doing their murmuration, that the crows are just funny, and that we can actually witness and be a part of that, that we can notice the synchronicities of those things. Me walking down the path and coming across a heron, one of my most favourite birds, and then also saw a magpie or two as well. So it was just that pure bliss which helped bring me into my own 4-leaf clover, that I feel magically protected, that I feel okay, and no matter how I'm battered, I am going to manage to get through this. And I think for me, this is what this storytelling's about today, is helping you recognise that no matter whether you feel how much you feel backed in a corner, no matter how depleted you're feeling at the moment, and the reason, part of that reason is because it's looking out there, that's so many different things going on. It is really overwhelming. And where do you turn to next? What is true? What is untrue? What is real? What is unreal? How do we navigate through this? And the only thing I can suggest really is take that deep breath and really anchor into earth. And I know I keep saying it, but she is so important. She can actually give us that support we need. Remember to go outside, to breathe the air, to walk and have the cobwebs cleared, because I feel that if we stay stuck in, we're just stuck with our own thought processes. And if we go down a particular dark line, that's where the robber mouse comes in. We lose extra energy and we're not helping or nurturing or supporting ourselves. So it's literally coming out of our environment to go somewhere where we can actually feel the wind in our hair, breathe in fresh air, notice what's going off in the world on a local level, on an immediate level, and really engage with that, because there's not a lot we can do about the external, particularly on a larger scale, but we can sort of look at how we're interacting on a local level, on a close level, on a day-to-day level, on that now moment level. And I have a feeling I'm not going to be alone in that deep abiding sense at this moment, that even as dark as it looks, as drastic as it looks, as threatening as it looks, that spark within of everything will be okay, and holding on to that 4-leaf clover, because it's that 4-leaf clover that exists in each and every one of us that we can hold on to and clear our way forward. So anyway, I'm hoping that all makes sense. I don't know how all over the place I went. I'm not sure. I'm going to see what sound comes through for us today. Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm not sure when I'll be back on. I don't seem to be drawn to do this on a daily basis, particularly at the moment. Just tuning in when it sort of occurs to me, and trying to let myself off the hook for not doing it on a daily basis as well. But please stay safe. Take care of yourselves. As I say, I hope that this resonates for some of you. And I will be back soon. In the meantime, love you lots. Bye for now.